This is an audio recording of Bob the Photographer by Arthur M. Winfield, narrated by Right Here Audio. Chapter 19. Bob on the Road. For the instant, Bob could not make out who had caught hold of him. The road was dark, and the fairground swindler had come up in his rear. He thought he must be the victim of some footpad, and dropping his bundle of chemicals, he strove to break away. "Let go of me!" he cried. "I will when I have you where I want you," returned the swindler. Bob fancied he recognized the voice, but he was not sure. He renewed his struggle and had almost succeeded in breaking away when the swindler let him a blow in the neck that dazed him. "Now we'll see who's ahead," hissed the man. "I'll teach you to interfere with Joe Horning's business." "I'll give you away to the police the next time," returned Bob, although rather faintly. "Let go your hold." "Not much. See here, you served me a mean trick and I promised to get square. I don't intend to lose $10 for nothing. How much have you got in your pockets?" "More than you'll ever get," cried Bob, growing desperate. "Will you let go?" "I told you before I would not." "Then take that!" Bob had by this time somewhat recovered from the blow in his neck. He now hauled off with his right fist and let the swindler have it straight in the mouth. Bob threw all his muscle in the blow. It caught Joe Horning in the upper lip and not only drew the blood, but also loosened two of the swindler's front teeth. The swindler began to splutter, and he put up one of his hands to his mouth. Thus partially released, Bob twisted himself free from the other hand, rolled over, and sprang up. Joe Horning had not anticipated such resentment on Bob's part, and he was surprised. In addition to being hurt, he stepped back into the road and made a movement as if to draw a pistol. "I'll fix you," he muttered after spitting out a mouthful of blood. Whether the swindler had a pistol or not, Bob did not know, but he was determined to take no risk with so desperate a character, and springing forward, he closed in on Horning. The two rolled over into the dirt of the road, and for a while it was a question as to which would come out on top. Horning was at first under, but he was a strong man, and he now put forth every effort to get the best of the young photographer. "You think you're mighty fly, but I'll show you," he puffed. To this, Bob made no reply. He saw he had a hard task before him, but he did not intend to waste breath. Horning tried to roll over several times, but Bob held him down until, when he could do nothing else, the swindler bit the young photographer in the finger. It was not a hard bite, but it was so painful and unexpected that Bob was for the moment taken off his guard. In that moment, Horning pushed the youth aside and sprang on top. "This is my innings. Pass over that $10 that is coming to me." "I won't do it." "I say you shall. Come, be quick." Horning tried to get one of his hands into Bob's vest pocket. That pocket contained $17 in bills, and Bob struggled vigorously to save his money. Just then, there came the sound of carriage wheels on the road. Bob, lying on his back, heard them first and brightened up. Perhaps help was close at hand. At last, the swindler succeeded in getting his fingers into the pocket. The tips came in contact with the roll of bills, and he renewed his efforts to gain possession of the money. He had just succeeded in getting the bills in his grasp when he noticed the approaching carriage. He tried to spring away, but Bob held him fast. "Help! Help!" cried the young photographer. The carriage came to a sudden stop. A man sat on the front seat, whip in hand. "What's up?" he cried curiously. "This fellow is robbing me. Help!" The man made a leap to the road. Horning saw him coming and tried his best to wrench himself away, but Bob's hold was a good one, and although the swindler kicked him several times, he did not relinquish it until the new arrival had Horning by the collar. Then Bob jumped up and caught the fellow by the arm. "Don't let him escape," he cried to the man from the carriage. "I've got him fast enough," returned the stranger. "So he was trying to rob you, eh?" "Yes! He has a roll of bills he took from my vest pocket." "That's not so!" cried Horning. "I have nothing but some loose change in my possession." "Then he threw the roll away when you came up," said Bob. "He took it from my vest pocket only a second ago." "Strike a match and take a look around," suggested the stranger. "He may have flung it away, as you say." Bob quickly lit a match and then several more. In a few minutes, he found the bills lying to one side in the dust. "I have them," he cried. "What will you do with this fellow?" asked the stranger. "If you say so, we can take him to my uncle, who is the squire." "I think that would be best," said Bob. "He attacked me because I exposed his swindling methods in a sideshow at the fair this afternoon." "Oh, I heard about that. You're the chap, and this is the swindler." "Yes," returned Bob. "Shall we walk him there, or can you take him in your carriage?" "Take him in the carriage." "Is it far?" "About 5 minutes' drive." "All right. Come, get in the carriage," went on Bob, turning to Horning. "See here, gents, this is rather rough. returned the swindler. All the bluster and bravery seemed to have died out of him. "It's not any worse than you deserve," said Bob. "No, I ain't that kind. I sometimes go in for a bit of fun, but you can do your talking when you're locked up," said the stranger. "Now get in at once." He assisted Horning up on the front seat, still retaining his hold on the fellow's collar. "Now you had better take a seat in the rear," said he to Bob. "You will find a heavy stick under the seat. Don't hesitate to use it if he tries to escape." Bob was about to enter the carriage when suddenly Horning sprang up and hit the stranger on the breast. The blow was so unexpected that the carriage owner reeled backward. He would have struck on his head had not Bob caught him. "Get up!" cried Horning to the horse, and the animal moved forward. The swindler caught up the reins, and away went the carriage, leaving Bob in the middle of the road, supporting the carriage owner, who had not yet recovered. "Whoa!" cried the youth to the horse, but the animal paid no attention, and soon the swindler and turnout had disappeared in the darkness. "Well, that's a fine mess!" cried the carriage owner as he recovered himself. "He got the best of Jack Hicks that time, and no mistake." "What is best to be done?" questioned Bob. "I must go after him," replied Hicks. "You can't do it on foot." "I'll borrow a rig from Edgar Willett." "Do you know him?" "I'm stopping at his house." "Oh, yes, he's an old friend of mine." The two hurried off and soon reached the Willett homestead. Willett had gone to bed, but he quickly dressed and got out a horse and light spring wagon. He wished to accompany Hicks, but his wife persuaded him to remain at home. "I suppose I can go?" said Bob. "Certainly. Jump in." Bob placed his chemicals in a safe place, and a minute later the spring wagon was on the road, spinning along in the direction Horning had taken. "Are there any side roads near here?" asked the young photographer after a drive of several minutes in silence. "Not for fully a mile from here. We ought to try and catch him before he has a chance of branching off." "That's what I'm thinking. The trouble is, my horse is a pretty fast stepper, although he's rather tired just now." On and on they went through the darkness. Presently Hicks drew up rather suddenly and pointed to one side of the road. "There is a cow path in here," he said. "He might have gone this way." "And he did," said Bob. "How do you know?" "There is your horse and carriage standing in the bushes." Chapter 20. Bob in the Woods. The young photographer was right. There, scarcely 10 yards away, were the horse and the wagon. Hicks at once jumped down and strode over to the turnout. Bob followed. "Is it okay?" queried Bob. "Seems to be." "He drove the horse for all he knew how," responded Hicks. "Which way do you think he went?" "Can't say. It's so infernally dark it will be impossible to follow him up." "Well, I'm glad you got your rig back." "So am I. Yes, it's all right, too." "Let me have the lantern a moment." "What for?" "I'll see if he left any trace behind." Bob took the lantern and made a close search, but though there were footmarks, there were too many to trace out those made by the swindler. "What is beyond here?" asked the young photographer as he returned the lantern to the spring wagon. "This cow path leads to Gus Freeman's barnyard." "Is it far?" "Quite a walk. There is a shortcut over the fields." "Then suppose we take a walk up that way. We may head the fellow off." "That's so. Wait till I tie both horses and we'll go." To a person not accustomed to outdoor life, walking over the rough fields would have been no easy task, but Bob was used to it, and he easily kept up with Hicks' long strides. When they reached the barnyard, of which Hicks had spoken, they found it dark and silent. The house stood some distance away, but there, also, was no sign of life. "He must have branched off," said Hicks, as they came to a halt near the stile. "Perhaps, but hist! What was that?" Bob pointed to the rear of the cowshed as he spoke. A movement of some kind had attracted his attention. "I didn't see anything. It looked to me like a man moving about." "Perhaps it was Freeman's colt. He leaves him out here overnight." But Bob shook his head. He was certain that what he had seen was not a horse. "I'm going up and find out," he said. "You stay here and watch for a move from below." "All right. If you see him, whistle." Bob moved away through the semi-darkness. Passing along the rail fence to the end of the barn, he hopped over, and without making a sound, crossed to the cowshed. As he did so, a form sprang away from the shed and darted around the corner of the barn. Bob was sure it was the form of Joe Horning. He gave a whistle to notify Hicks and then ran after the man, who by this time had passed the barn and was making for a cornfield situated some distance to the right. As we know, Bob was a good runner, and now he put forth his best effort, hoping to catch Horning before he entered the field. But in this he was unsuccessful. The swindler gained the field and in a moment vanished among the tall rows of corn. Now, anyone who has been in a field of tall corn knows full well how difficult it is to see in any direction over a distance of 10 feet. Bob ran after Horning, but once in the field, he depended altogether on his ears to guide him towards the fellow. He heard Horning make his way down the slope towards the creek, and he concluded that the swindler knew nothing of the lay of the land. Presently, Bob heard a splash, and he knew the man had reached the creek. He rushed straight ahead and was just in time to see Horning wading knee-deep across to the stony field beyond. He means to escape if the thing can be done, thought Bob. I wonder if I can't jump over and thus save myself a wetting. He gave a loud whistle for Hick's benefit, and then drawing back several paces, took the leap. Bob was a good jumper, and he cleared the creek with nearly a foot to space. Horning, by this time, was making up the rocky slope which led to a patch of timberland, rather sparingly overgrown. He looked behind him, and seeing that Bob was still following, redoubled his speed. But Bob was more used to such traveling than the swindler from the city, and he kept gaining on Horning, until when the other side of the timber was reached, he was not more than 100 feet behind. Again, he whistled to Hicks, but whether he was answered or not, he was unable to tell. I'll have to fight it out alone, thought Bob grimly. Well, I won't give him the ghost of a chance this trip. He'll find he can't nip my finger for nothing. You might as well stop, Horning, he called out. I believe I will, returned the man, and he turned about and waited for Bob to come up. Do you give in? Certainly not. I am no fool. We are 2 to 1. Horning started. He had supposed Bob alone. Who was with you? Never mind. You'll soon see. Bob gave another whistle, but to his dismay, he received no answer. He did not know that Hicks was slightly hard of hearing and had only heard the signal when Bob was comparatively close by. In perplexity over the non-appearance of Hicks, Bob looked around for a stick. He soon found one, and picking it up, he brandished it in the air. Now we'll see who is the best man. Do you see that light over in the cottage yonder? Not being blind, I do, returned Horning sarcastically. Well, you'll walk straight for it. I won't, and you can't make me. As Horning spoke, he sprang at Bob. The young photographer took a step back and then brought down the stick with all force. The blow caught Horning in the arm, and he uttered a shrill cry of pain. You have broken my arm! Not quite as bad as that, I hope, said Bob. Do you intend to mind now? No. Again, the swindler made a dash for Bob. Once more, the stick descended, but this time Horning dodged, and putting out his foot, he tripped Bob up. When the young photographer arose, Horning was again running as fast as his long legs would permit, but Bob was equal to the emergency. He picked up a stone, and with unerring aim, flung it at the retreating form. The missile caught Horning in the back of the head. He staggered, tried to recover, and then fell forward. He was partly stunned, and before he recovered, Bob was on top of him. In his pocket, the young photographer had a strong cord, and with this he bound Horning's hand behind him. You have broken my skull, moaned Horning, completely subdued when he saw how helpless he was now. No more broken than is your arm, returned Bob. Will you go along now? No. Want another dose of that stick, eh? Hold up, I'll go. Oh, my head. We'll have your head attended to as soon as I have you in a safe place. Come on. Bob caught Horning by the arm, and both walked towards the cottage, from the window of which a light was streaming. Bob had no idea who occupied the place, but he thought it would be likely he would find somebody to give him assistance. Arriving at the cottage, he knocked on the door. There was at once a commotion inside, and Bob fancied that the light was lowered. Who's there? Came in a rather rough voice. I want help, said Bob. The door was opened cautiously, and the next moment Bob was nearly dumbfounded to find himself confronted by Mike Grogan.